Bar Maids has a new product coming out this month. It's called Twisted Lights. Twisted Lights are the most incredible beeswax candle with a very long burn time. For example, the smaller of the Twisted Lights available burns for approximately 20 hours. But here's what sets Twisted Lights apart from other candles. They look exactly like balls of yarn. They look so much like balls of yarn, it almost looks as if they took a ball of yarn and dipped it in wax. And just like yarn, Twisted Lights comes in lots of amazing colors, and they are 100% local beeswax. Bar Maids does not use any additives or hardeners in their candles, nor do they coat their molds with toxic mold release or spray. They are just a hyperallergenic candle that is easy on the respiratory system and will not make you sneeze. The only wax that is proven to be non-toxic is 100% beeswax. Beginning March 1st, you can get your Twisted Lights candles at www.bar-maids.com.
Hi, and welcome to Knitting Blooms. Today is Friday, March 1st, and this is episode number 96. My name is Tina, also known as Bloomingknitter, and thanks so much for joining me today. I hope you've had a great week, and I hope your weekend is off to a good start. This show is going to be probably shorter than normal. I do have a tutorial, which is going to be the fiber dyeing. But one of the reasons that it's going to be shorter is because I'm tired. This morning I woke up around 1:15 or so and couldn't get back to sleep. And about 10 to 3 I decided I'm just going to get up and work out. So I got up and worked out, did a 2-hour workout, got dressed, got ready for work, and then after that I went back to bed at 6:30 and slept until 8. But I'm still tired because having broken sleep like that is not the best thing to do. And then second, I don't have that much to show you. I have progress on my projects this week, but there's not a whole lot to show. I'm only going to show you one whip this week, because I did work on the Evenstar. I got 6 or 7 repeats completed, but it looks exactly the same as last week. It's just the border. So I am up to 12 or 13, I can't remember, repeats. And so I'm not going to show you that this week. And then I also worked on the slippers that I haven't worked on in a while for Steve. Now, with that project, it got a little kind of crazy because I've done like, I don't know, 60 slippers. I think this is like pair number 30 or something thereabout. And I can't believe I started the slipper and I screwed up and I had to rip it back twice. I was working on the sole, and I don't know what it was, but I was working on it on Wednesday, and the guys were in the office, and maybe it was just the commotion of the stuff going on in the office at the same time, and some new features on Knit Companion. I'm not sure what, but I had to start the slipper 3 times. Twice I started it, and then I had to rip it back, and then I just waited and I finished it. I started it again today. So I'm not going to show you that because it's just a felted clog. So I only have one project to show you, which I might as well show you now because it's not really much, but I wanted to show you. I haven't shown you these in a while. I was working on some basic socks. I started them a while back, and one of the reasons why I started them, I think we were going to go see Twilight, and I needed something simple to work on. Okay, you're going to come sit with me while we were at the movies. But I haven't shown them to you in a while, and Sammy's going to try and help me, but here they are. I've gotten quite a bit done on them. I don't think I had this one started the last time I showed them to you, but I have it up through the heel, and this one I think I was right here since the last time I showed you, and this one is well into the leg. I have been working on these when I walk at the office. I mentioned last week that there was a few days that I was trying to get 30,000 steps, and that's a lot of walking, and I just wanted something simple to work on, so I've been working on these while I've been doing that. But other than that, I can't really work on the Evenstar while I walk, obviously, with beads and all of that. So this is my walking project, and I have been doing them a little bit on the treadmill as well when I'm at home. But I dyed this yarn quite a while ago. I can't remember, but I really like how it's coming out. I like that it's not pooling or anything, and I really like how the texture is coming out with the color of the yarn. So that's all my whips that I have this week. Like I said, I did work on the Evenstar and made some progress, and I worked on some slippers, and I made a little bit of progress. But the reason why I'm recording today, even though I am kind of out of it, I had to start the podcast 3 times because my words didn't come out right. And the reason why I'm recording today rather than tomorrow is because tomorrow I'm going to spend a crafting day with some friends at a friend's church. They're doing a fundraiser for the ladies group. And so I will be spending all day knitting and sharing time with other knitters and just friends in general, and eating good food. So that's what I'm doing. And then really the only next time I would have to record would be on Sunday evening. So I just wanted to get it out of the way so I could get this out to you guys, and you didn't have to wait till Monday to see it. So spinning this week, not very much at all. I did a little bit at the office and I did a little bit here at home, but barely anything to speak of. So let's talk about the February Finish It or Frog It. I have some bad news about this, and here it is. I think that I am to blame for the most part, I think, but we kind of got a little sidetracked with this knit-along. The object of this knit-along was to finish up old whips or frog them, get them off the needles, finally decide that they weren't going to be completed. And I think we lost sight of this. I don't know if it was because I didn't mention it enough about that the projects had to be started prior to September 1st. I'm pretty sure that I did mention it, but maybe not enough, because I had a number of people tell me that there was projects in there that were started after September 1st, 2012. And at first I'm thinking, oh, it's a couple, and you know, people, maybe they just forgot or whatever. Well, yesterday I went through the thread. We had 108 posts, I think. And I went through the thread and I looked at every single project in the thread. And of the 108, I could only confirm that 40 of those projects were actually legitimate projects started prior to September 2012. Now, there was an additional 25 that had unknown start dates. They either didn't have a start date listed, or for the most part, all the projects that didn't have a start date listed were created in Ravelry in February or between September and now. So I couldn't really confirm whether they had been started prior. I mean, sometimes people don't start their project page right away. So I couldn't confirm whether or not they were started prior to September. And there was 38 projects that were started and completed between September and now. So this is what I've decided. We're going to scrap the whole knit-along. Unfortunately, the 40 projects that were legitimate, you're not going to have a chance to win a prize this time. Because I thought about it, and originally I was going to pull those out and draw from those, but because there was projects that were unknown, I couldn't confirm whether or not they were actually legitimate prizes or projects. So I didn't want to leave those people out but I also didn't want to include them because what if they weren't legitimate and then they got a prize and then it wasn't legitimate? So we're just not going to do prizes. I know that I had prizes picked out for this, but we will just use those prizes for another knit along. Really, this is my first failed knit along, so I'm not really upset about it. I mean, I really wanted to give some prizes away, but I just feel like because it got out of hand and I didn't catch it quick enough, and here we are at the end of the knit along, it just was a bad situation. And I thought that trying to give prizes away on top of that to the people that had legitimate prizes, but disclude the ones that I didn't know. Again, I just felt like, let's just wash our hands of it. We'll start fresh with this die-along that starts today and move on. So that's all I can say about it. Again, I'm sorry if you did have a legitimate project in there, but in order to make it fair, I just figured let's just wait. We'll have plenty of other knit-alongs this year to win prizes. So that's all I have to say about that. So let's talk about the die-along. The die-along this month, it has to be dyed. Now, it has to be dyed between now, March 1st, and March 31st. Nothing that you dyed 6 months ago or whatever. It has to be dyed in the month of March 2013. It can be yarn or fiber or fabric or whatever medium you decide to use, but it has to be dyed. You have to dye it personally. It can't be something that you purchased that was hand dyed. You have to dye. This is not a knit what's hand dyed. This is a dye along, specifically dyed. So it's you taking the fiber or fabric or yarn or whatever and physically dyeing it. And then you post your finished dyed yarn, fabric, fiber, whatever in the thread to show what you've created. Now, I would like to suggest that you include just a basic method about how you dyed it. Did you dye it with Kool-Aid? Did you dye it with Wilton's cake dyes? Did you dye it with acid dyes? Maybe you might want to include the colors that you use, so if somebody likes what you did, they might be able to recreate it. Maybe you want to include just a basic dyeing process. Did you kettle dye it? Did you hand paint it? Whatever. Just so that people can, you know, share what you've done and possibly recreate it if they liked the effect that you created. So that is the March knit along. So get out there and start dyeing. And like I said, I do have a fiber dyeing tutorial that will be coming up shortly. So stay tuned for that. Okay, we do have a Bar Maids drawing today. But first, I want to tell you a little bit about the Twisted Lights candles that are now available at Bar Maids. I did go to their website today and found the Twisted Lights candles, and I did place an order for them, so hopefully I will have them sometime next week and I'll be able to show them to you. But they are candles that look like balls of yarn, and it's really kind of cool. You can go to their website and check it out, and their website is www.bar-maids.com. And like I said, they are available. There's two sizes. The small size is $9.95, I think. And that burns for around 20 hours. And the large size is $7 more, and that burns, I think it said 50 hours. Now, I ordered just the small ones just to try them out and see how I like them. And I ordered them in pink, obviously. So hopefully, again, I hope I have them sometime next week so I can show them to you and I can try them out. So, but we do have a Bar Maids drawing today, and that is number, I forgot to write down the number. Hang on, let me find out what that number was. Number 32. I'm getting a reflection. Number 32, and that is Angel Mom 3, and that's Sandy. So Sandy, congratulations. You are this week's winner of the Bar Maids $15 off coupon. So I'm going to let you watch the show and learn that you have won. Now, I don't know what the cats are here for, but they've had their snack and everything. But Crystal and Sammy are getting crazy. Anyway, Sandy, you have won this week's Bar Maids drawing. So just get in contact with me and I'll shoot you that coupon over. Okay, now it's time for the dyeing tutorial. It's pretty quick and pretty basic, but I did want to do a tutorial just so that if you want to know how to dye fiber, I mean, it's pretty much just like dyeing yarn, but you have to be sure that you don't heat it too much so that it doesn't felt. So here is the fiber dyeing tutorial, and I hope you enjoy it. In this video, I'm going to show you how I dye fiber or roving. What I've done is I have this tin that you can get at any grocery store or kitchen supply store. And I also have a cookie sheet rack, a cooling rack that's underneath. This is just to keep the fiber lifted off of the bottom, so when the water drips through, if there's any excess dye, it will just go on the bottom, and I can easily lift out this tray to take any excess water out of there. So first what I did was I used this tray and I laid my fiber out, something similar to this, where I've just kind of circled it around, and I laid it in the fiber, or in the water to soak. And I have a picture to show you how that looked. And what I did is I just laid it in the water with vinegar, and let it soak, let it absorb the water. And once it was completely absorbed, I have now taken it out and wrung out as much water as possible. Now, when I did put it in the water, at first I just let it soak right on top, like I did with the yarn, if you've seen my other dyeing tutorial, where I put the yarn right on top of the water and let it float there and slowly soak in. But then after a while, I did kind of press the fiber down into the water just a little bit, and you could feel the air bubbles coming up as you held the fiber down under the water. So I did that just to kind of speed it along a little bit, but then I allowed it to set for about another hour after that, just to make sure that the fiber was completely submerged and had absorbed as much water as it could. So now I'm going to show you what I'm going to do with this. Now today I'm using Wilton's cake dyes, and these are all food safe, which is another reason I like to use them, so I don't have to worry about, you know, using it in my oven and whatnot. And I've gone ahead and mixed my mixture. What I did with this is I boiled some water and put it in the jar, and then added the Wilton's cake decorating dyes. This is the kind that is it doesn't have any other, it's just the coloring. So I have about 200 milliliters of water, and I added, to the yellow, I added about a tablespoon. To the other two colors, the green and the purple, which I will be using today as well, I only added about a half of a tablespoon. I added more for the yellow because I wanted a vibrant yellow, and I was nervous that it wasn't going to be quite as bright as I wanted it. So I have two bottles here, and the reason I have two bottles is because I decided that I would like to have two shades of each color. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure out the dye and put two different amounts of the dye in the water. I have about 5 ounces of water in each of these bottles. So I'll go ahead and I'm going to measure out approximately 45 milliliters. And I'm going to add that to the first bottle. Okay, and then on the second bottle, which I'm going to want a little bit stronger strength, I'm going to go ahead and put 60 milliliters in there. It's not quite 60, but we can add a little bit more. So I want this one to be a little bit stronger strength. And I can still add a little bit more than that because it looks like it's about the same, a little bit less. I'm just going to go ahead and fill this one up to about 8 ounces with the dye. So that will be my stronger strength. Now I will go ahead and do this for the other two colors, and then I will come back and show you how I'm going to color the dye on the fiber today. Okay, so now I'm ready to start adding the color. So for each of the dyes, I have the stronger strength has 8 ounces of water plus dye, and the lighter strength has about 6.5 ounces with the dye. So because I started with 5 ounces of water each. And I'm just going to add this color just like I did when I did my hand painting of the yarn. And I'm just going to just start adding color wherever I want. And the thing about the fiber is you have to make sure that you get it in to all the crevices. The yarn is much easier because you can easily get it in by moving it around. Because the fiber is kind of compressed to begin with, it makes it a little bit more difficult to get the dye in between and get all that color in there. And I should really be wearing gloves because my fingers are going to be colored. So I'm going to go ahead and grab some gloves. So just hang on just a second. Okay, so I'm starting with the lightest shade of yellow here, and I'm just trying to get the color to go throughout. Right now, I don't think, there's not very much water that's going all the way through, so I'm not too concerned just yet with that. But I do want to keep an eye on that to make sure that I don't get a lot of water underneath there with dye, because I don't want the color to get through. Now I'm wondering, this is still a very bright yellow, even though this is the lighter of the two. So I may not have made enough of a difference between the two different colors, but that's okay. And I am starting with the lightest color, the yellow, because I don't want to have it bleed too much with the other colors. So you just take your time and add the color however you like. I'm just doing straight across lines here because I do have the fiber in a circle. I started on the outside and I just circled it into the inside. So, and as I'm going through, I'm just trying to make sure that I am picking up color all the way through the fiber. That's the most important thing. The last time I dyed fiber, I did not get enough dye in the fiber, so I had a lot of white space. So when I ended up applying it, the fiber was very muted and very pastel-y colors. So I'm trying to go for something a little bit more vibrant this time. We'll see how it turns out. So I'm just going to go ahead and continue painting. I'm nearly out of this color here, so I may have to be mixing up some more color as well. I do have a little bit more dye that I've already mixed up, but I will go ahead and continue painting, and then once I am ready to heat set it, I will come back and go through that process with you as well. Okay, as I start to add the green, I'm going to try and keep the green a little bit away from the yellow, just so that if it does happen to bleed in just a little bit, I don't have too much taken away from the yellow. So I'm just going to try and keep it just a tiny bit away from the yellow as I'm adding the color here. And I'm going to saturate this as much as I possibly can. To get the color in there. Okay, now I'm moving on to the purple, and I wanted to tell you that each time that I've gone to the next color, I'm not getting too much water going underneath, but I have tried to absorb that extra water before moving on, just to be sure that I don't get any overflow. And I'm going to do the same thing here, where I'm going to try not to get too close to the yellow while I saturate, and then hopefully it won't bleed too much. So I'll go ahead and do this, and then I will be back again. Okay, so here's what I'm finding. Even though the top of this fiber looks quite saturated, I'm finding that the color is not going all the way through. So just be sure to turn your fiber over to get underneath, just like we did when we did the yarn dyeing. It's the same thing. Now, the yellow did not experience the same problem, and it may be that I had, because I had more dye in the batch. So next time, I think what I will do is put a full tablespoon of each color in the 200 milliliters of water to start, because the yellows seem to be quite saturated even on the bottom without having to turn it over. So that's the only difference between the two different colors, is that the green and the purple, I only put half a tablespoon of the dye in the water because I thought it would be a little bit darker than the yellow, but as it turns out, it might just need that full tablespoon of dye. So I will continue to paint. Okay, so as it turns out, I didn't have to mix any more dye, but I did use it all, or just about all of it. I am going to go ahead and soak up this excess water in here before I cook it. And I do mean cook it. I'm going to put it in my oven, and I'm going to set the temperature for about 250 and probably let it cook for about 45 minutes. I just want to make sure that it gets hot enough. So if I check it after 45 minutes and it doesn't seem to be very hot, then I will let it sit a little bit longer in the oven. And I'm not going to rinse it before I put it in the oven. I'm going to go ahead and put it in the oven just like this. I'm not too worried about the dye mixing anymore. Even if it goes down into the bottom of the pan, it should be fine because it is lifted up a little bit. And we'll see how it turns out. So I'm going to go ahead and pop it in the oven. And again, I'm going to preheat the oven first and then put it in the oven. So once the oven is preheated to 250 degrees, then I will pop this in the oven and set the timer for 45 minutes. Okay, everything is all cooked now, and after I took it out of the oven, which I ended up leaving it in the oven for an hour and a half versus the 45 minutes, after 45 minutes I just touched it to see if it was warm. It was a bit warm, but it didn't feel like it was really hot. So I left it in another 45 minutes after that. And then afterwards, I took it out and let it cool to room temperature, which really didn't take very long at all, probably 15 or 20 minutes, and it was cool to room temperature. I have since run it under kind of room temperature water in the sink, and rinsed it just to get some of the vinegar out, and all the water rinsed completely clear, so I don't have to worry about any bleeding, I did have a little bit of overlay. I got a little lazy when I was doing that final color of purple, so it kind of got into that yellow a little bit there. But other than that, it came out pretty cool. And now I'm just going to completely wring it out and try and get as much water as I can out. I'm not going to, I'm going to try not to touch it as much, you know, I'm going to try not to handle it, or I'm going to handle it as little as possible to get the water out. And then I'm going to hang it up to dry. And we'll see how it turns out when it's completely dry and the colors show their fullest. And once it starts to dry a little bit, I can kind of fluff it up a little bit, because right now it's really compacted, and in order to really get it dry, I'm gonna have to probably fluff it up a little bit. So we'll see how that goes. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial on dyeing fiber. Bye. So I hope you liked that tutorial. I did want to show you what the fiber looked like when it was all dry and finished. So here it is. It came out really cool. I've been dying to start spinning this, but I didn't want to start it until I was able to show you the braid all nice and pretty. But it came out really neat, and I'm very excited about how it turned out. So I'm going to probably start spinning this very soon. I don't have anything on the ladybug or the sidekick right now, and I think I might try and spin it on the sidekick. So very fun. I'm excited. What I think I'm going to do is I'm going to split it a couple of times, and then like split it down the center, and then spin it, and then Navajo ply it. I'm going to spin it all in one bobbin, so I can keep the colors together, because I think that would be very pretty. So I hope you enjoyed that tutorial, and I hope you will give that a try this month. So that is the fiber. Now for a little bit of talk about Knittopia. I counted the days today. There is 47 sleeps before I leave for Knittopia. It's gonna come by so quickly. I'm actually staring at all the donations. I transplanted them from the computer room to the basement last night, so that I could start organizing stuff and getting things together. And that was quite a undertaking. Yeah, so I've kind of got things mostly organized. I was this week getting in contact with vendors who had promised donations just to make sure that they were still going to send them. And unfortunately, a few people had to back out. I know things happen in life, and you know, time gets away from you, and things happen in real life, and you can't do anything about it. So a couple suppliers or vendors had to back out on sending donations. So I'm hoping that I can get a couple more companies to send donations, because we're still a little bit short on door prizes. If necessary, I can always pull something from stash or make a quick trip to the local yarn store, but I'm hoping that we can get a couple more sponsors that are willing to send just a couple more door prizes before the end of March. But other than that, I don't have a list of new vendors this week. I just forgot to write it down today. I was trying to get my show notes together before I left the office, and I just totally forgot. So I will have a couple more. I do have a couple more donations that I haven't listed yet that I will list next week on the show. Okay, so that's all I've got for you this week. Yep, I think it's definitely a shorter show this week, but I just wanted, like I said, I wanted to get this out to you guys so you didn't have to wait till Monday to see a new show. And I know I'm going to be busy this week, and like I said earlier, I have a craft day all day tomorrow, and then on Sunday I am going to be doing drywall. I know, it's still going on. I have dragged my feet far too long. I was kind of hoping that my husband would pick up the ball and run with it, he hasn't taken that hint. So I am planning on getting up early Sunday morning and just getting to work on it. Hopefully getting a good 4, 5, 6 hours in before lunch or just after lunch, and then being able to sit down and relax after lunch. And I'll have to work out somewhere in there, and hopefully by 3 or 4 o'clock I can sit down and just relax and knit. But since I'm going to have a whole day tomorrow knitting with friends and just relaxing, I'm not extremely concerned about knitting all day on Sunday. So anyway, I've got a busy day ahead of me tomorrow and Sunday, and I hope you guys have a great weekend and a great rest of the week, and I will talk to you next week.